Hi, my name is Christy Weekly. I'm a program manager for the financials team for Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations. Today I'm going to just give you an overview of some future direction around financial reporting. And I'm going to actually do two things. I'm first going to show you a demo of a prototype that we've created, which will be shipping this fall of 2017. And then after that, I'm actually going to go through just a high-level roadmap of the direction that we're looking at in the future for adding additional features. So I'm going to start in Finance and Operations, and you can see I'm actually starting at the Cfo Overview Workspace. The workspace that we see here is redesigned a little bit from what we previously shipped in the 7.2 product. You can see here, though, as a CFO, similar to what we had previously, they have access to a lot of KPI, visual information around bar charts and pie charts, basically giving that CFO the overview of the financial health of the organization. So that's really similar to what we had before, but what we're going to see though is we're also adding additional financial reporting that will be available for the CFO if they want to get additional detail behind some of the information that they're seeing on the KPIs or the charts. So here we have just the basic information, the KPIs at the top. We have some of the different visuals, including a new visual around just the trial balance itself. We are using Power BI, and this is embedded within Finance and Operations, but because we're using Power BI, we have a lot of the same functionality that you would be used to in Power BI Desktop or PowerBI.com, where you can go in and you can choose to see specific organizations or years. So you can see here our years, we're showing 3 years of 2015, 16, and 17. For the organizations, we're actually looking at the information for 3 different legal entities. But of course, as the CFO, they actually have access on this workspace to all of the organizations. So they could go in and they could choose to see additional legal entities in the visuals that we're seeing on this tab or this page. What I'm going to do is jump over next to the income statement insights. So similar to what we saw on the first page, we have additional visuals including KPIs, but here we're more focused on the income statement aspect. So rather than using the filters to the side with Power BI, of course Power BI still has the filtering capability within the visuals themselves. So if I want to see additional information on just USSI, I could choose that company's bar in my expenses bar chart, and you can see all of the rest of the information was filtered to just that legal entity. So if I want to see some additional information or do some research, because we can see here that this company right now is currently at a loss, we can use a lot of the information here, and we can go and look also at the financial statements. So for this CFO, let's say that they want to get a little bit more information specifically about Ontario because they notice that this has a lot of expenses based on that region. So I'm going to choose to go ahead and drill down and just see a little bit more detail about where these expenses are occurring. And you can see here that a lot of the expenses are in Toronto. So let's say that I want to look at the financial statement. So Power BI now has the concept of a drill through where it will actually take you to a different visual within the reports. So I'm going to choose to go to the income statement by region. Now what we're seeing here actually is a full income statement, but it's being filtered down to just the data based on where we drilled from. So because we drilled specifically on the city of Ontario or the city of Toronto within the province of Ontario, of course within Canada, we're being filtered based on that information. And this report is showing us right now that we only actually have one expense account that was posted to for that specific criteria. You can see here again, Canada, Ontario. And then the one thing that we have in addition is that we are showing the project. So this is the project ID of those expenses that incurred within Toronto. So just like again with Power BI, I could choose to drill up or drill back down depending on the level of detail I want to see. But the important thing is if I want to see more detail on the number itself, I can just click on it and that will actually open up the Accounting Source Explorer. Now previously when we would drill down on financial statement numbers, in summary, it would actually take us to the detail, but it would take you to the general ledger vouchers for the detail behind that number. We've continually heard from customers, of course, that they want to go to the source documents behind those general ledger numbers. So that's what we're doing with the Accounting Source Explorer, is we actually took that filter criteria and again sent it into the Accounting Source Explorer. So we can see here that there are 2 invoices that actually made up that number, and we can see all the detail pertaining to those invoices. So there's 3 lines for each invoice because there's various amounts on those invoices that posted against that ledger account. So right here you can see is the ledger account that we were looking at. I want you to notice, though, that nowhere in this ledger account is the fact that Canada was the country, or Ontario was the province, or project was even included in that. And I want to point that out because the second enhancement we're making around financial reporting is we're actually pulling in data now from the subledger transactions for reporting purposes. So what this means moving forward is that you no longer have to have a lot of additional financial dimensions in order to report on this data. So you can see here is our project ID that was sent in for filtering. We can see here that there's a couple different lines. The first invoice had 2 different lines, but notice that line 2 is showing twice. And that's because we had a portion of the amount for the price itself, and then a portion was actually for the price variance. And this would be great information, so if you want to send these transactions off to the project manager, you could include all of this data. So let's go ahead and just export it. So just like we have within all of finance and operations, we can send it to Excel. And of course, once it's in Excel, you can send all this data off to that project manager in order for them to do analysis to figure out why was there a price variance. So I just want to show here, if we sum up these numbers, here is that matching amount for the total that we were actually drilling on from the financial statement. And then we can, of course, email this off to the project manager. So with that, I'm going to go back to the financial statement, to the CFO overview. And the next thing I want to do is just talk about the roadmap. So when we get into the roadmap, the first thing I want to talk about is the goals for financial reporting. First of all, as you've seen, we're actually using Power BI, and Power BI is going to be embedded within finance and operations. So what that means is that the persona that will eventually be creating and or editing or consuming these reports will all be able to do this within finance and operations. That means that they don't have to have a separate license and actually go into powerbi.com or Power BI desktop. It can all be done within finance and operations. The next one, which is really important, is we still want to make sure that our target persona is Phyllis, who is the accounting manager. So what this means is that when we go in and a user goes in for an organization and they want to create or edit an existing report or create a new report, we want that experience to be so easy that a Phyllis persona can do this. We do not want to be dependent on the IT team to have to come in and create these reports. So we still want to keep that ease of use that we had with Management Reporter and financial reporting within AX7, where Phyllis is our persona. I kind of touched on the next point already, which is we really want to focus this new financial reporting on the analytical side of financial reporting. So what that means is we're still going to continue to support Management Reporter for AX 2012, of course, and new financial reporting within AX7, which is based off of Management Reporter. That will still all be supported because that really gives you the ability to create your statutory financial reports, your consolidated reports that you need to communicate externally. This new financial reporting is really focused more on, at least to start with, on the analytical and the internal consumption of financial reports so that we have a lot of additional functionality to analyze and research where the numbers are being driven from a transaction perspective. And along with that, the last bullet point is that in order to do that, we are going to be pulling and including a lot of additional subledger transactions for report filters, for dimensions. And again, I want to point out that just because I'm using the word dimension does not mean that they are a financial dimension. They are just an attribute or a dimension that we can use for reporting on. So with that, we wanted to just highlight what's going to be supported for the fall 2017 release and then moving forward. So for the fall release, the first thing is we definitely will have default reports or visuals, as they're called, within Power BI that are out of the box that will be embedded within finance and operations. The key thing about those reports is that they will not be able to be edited and new reports will not be able to be created within finance and operations. Now, that doesn't mean that someone couldn't go and pull the PBIX file and do their own edits or new reports using Power BI Desktop. We probably would discourage that a little bit though, because we will be coming out fairly quickly with new functionality around these reports. So we really want to use the fall release as more of a preview rather than using it as the actual financial solution that people can go and modify. Also, we'll be creating some additional workspaces. So I showed you this functionality on the CFO workspace, but we will have additional workspaces that are really designed specifically just around the financial reporting. And those workspaces will evolve, as we'll talk about, to include edit and creation capability moving forward. But we want to make sure that, of course, these are available to more personas than just the CFO for the fall release. For the fall release, we do have subledger data, as I showed, but we will be focusing on just header information on those transactions. So for example, you should be able to report on things such as the vendor and the customer and the employee of the transactions, but then also attributes around those. So the vendor group or the customer group, you should be able to also report on that type of information. What we will not have support for is getting down to the line level for the fall release. So that means you won't be able to report on things like product or project. Even though I showed project in the demo, it won't be there for the fall release, but we'll get that shortly after. The other thing is security. Right now, the security for Power BI is one of two things, which is number one, if you have access to some certain workspaces, you will have access to these reports for all of your companies. So of course, you're going to want to be careful that only the correct personas will have access to those workspaces that can view all companies. But then there also will be some workspaces and some privileges that will be available for specific roles so that they can see these reports for only the active company. So right now we have either an all or just the one active company scenario for the fall release, but that will be changing in the future, of course, also. And then with currencies for fall, we're only going to be supporting the accounting currency on these reports. So of course that means you will have to be careful if you are looking at numbers and you're actually doing some type of calculated column where it's actually summing them together, that you're of course summing together accounting currencies that are the same. What's coming though shortly after is after the fall release, we're going to add a lot of functionality, and this is not going to all come out at once, but we really are looking at doing monthly incremental updates. So we may actually add one of these 1 month, another month. Some may take a little longer. So the first thing, of course, is we really want to add the ability to edit existing or create new reports fairly quickly after the fall release. Along with that, we also want to enhance the security. We will be looking at adding row-level security based on reporting hierarchies. The reporting hierarchies that we typically had designed within management reporter or financial reporting, those are not there anymore. But what we will be doing is creating or adding those within finance and operations. And with that, we will allow you to create or define your security at the individual nodes of the trees for your reporting hierarchy, so that you can control security around not only the legal entities, but also the financial dimension reports, and then also, of course, the consolidation or the roll-ups of those. From a currency perspective, we will make enhancements to support reporting currency, and there's two aspects to that. We want to support reporting currency using the actual reporting currency numbers that are posted within finance and operations, but then also support reporting currency using the translation, similar to what we have in Management Reporter now. And then in addition, we also want to look at supporting an analysis currency, which is really an overall consolidation currency that you could choose to use. If your reporting currency is not the same in all of your companies, you could choose to use this analysis currency potentially within Power BI. We want to also shortly after fall add the ability to pull line level transaction attributes. Some of the ones that I talked about earlier were things such as project or the product or the fixed assets that might be down at the line level of your transactions. We want to add support for exporting to Excel. Power BI today does have an export option to Excel, but the problem is that it really it exports only the raw data, so you really don't have access to the nice formatting that you would have defined in your visual within Power BI. So we're looking to add support for that to maintain that visual layout of your data when you're exporting it. Also today, Power BI does not have any capability for printing. That's another thing we want to look at adding. And then, of course, some other things around report distribution. So you could potentially have some type of concept of a workbook that could be distributed to the consumers of your reports. And then also we want to look at consolidation. And likely the consolidation story will be using CDS in order to actually create consolidated reports, not only using legal entities within your finance and operations, but also potentially looking at consolidation of other ERPs or other data that could be pulling from other locations that would be imported or put into CDS. And that would be the consolidation story. So obviously there's going to be additional enhancements beyond what are listed here, but hopefully this gives you a general idea of where we're going. I want to reiterate though that we are not removing Management Reporter for AX 2012 or financial reporting, which was based off of Management Reporter for the for the AX7 releases. Those will continue to be there, will continue to be supported. So what that means is, of course, you still will have the ability to export to Excel or to print your reports. You'll still have all the capability to do your statutory reports from those existing solutions. But then now you have, in addition, more of this analytical, dynamic financial reporting that will be available. We'll work to get parity with the new financial reporting eventually to the financial reports and MR, but that will take a while, and it doesn't mean that we're going to be removing support at all for the other products. But we do want to try to get to parity as much as possible so that people will have that capability to include a lot of the subledger information on these reports if they choose to use that and send things to Excel and print things out. So I hope that gives you a good overview of where we're going in the future. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to our team. Thank you.